All right, so we give praise, esteem, and honor to Abba and Shamayim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. This speaks us up in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, but you have not the love of Alahym in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Alahym only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There's one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? All esteem and praise to Abba and Shamayim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. 1 Timothy 3, verse 14. These things write unto you, hoping to come unto you shortly. But if I tarry long, that you may know how to behave yourself in the house of Alahym, which is the assembly of the living Alahym, the pillar and ground of the truth. Without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. Alahym was manifest in the flesh, justified in the Ruach, seen in Malachim, preached unto the Gentiles, believed on in the world, and received up into esteem. So, boom. Let's go back to Ephesians chapter 4. Four and 6. Shalom, man. One Alahym and Abba, of all, and who above all, and through all, and in you all. But unto every one of us is given mercy according to the measure of the gift of a Mashiach. Wherefore he said, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive, gave gifts unto men. Now that he ascended, what is it that but that he also was descended first into the lower parts of the earth? He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above all heaven, that he might fill all things. He gave some apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of a Mashiach, till we all come in the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of Alahym, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of a Mashiach. Shalom, Eric, man. Shalom, Jay. Shalom, man. I will praise you for that, Nico. Praise you for that. So, I know we were talking about jobs. I know we read in 1 Chronicles 23 about the courses and the Levites being judges and officers and also leaders in the music. I know we got to talking about an apostle and a prophet. I mean, talking about a pastor. We've done that on numerous occasions. We spoke about an evangelist, but I want to come over here to Hebrews 6. Well, first let me read Hebrews 5 and 11, and then I'll go to Hebrews 6. Hebrews 5 and 11. Of whom many things to say and hard to be uttered, seeing you are dull of hearing. For when the time that you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which the first principles of the oracles of Alahym, and become as such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. So, what is the first principles? Let's talk about first principles. Let's see what principles, what you're going to get here in the Greek. What does that mean? When you deal with principles of this particular thing, this is stoichion. First thing, which offers belonging to the series of composite whole to take their rise an element. First principle. Elements which things come, the material causes of the universe, the heavenly bodies, the elements, rudiments, primary and fundamental principles. So, what is the fundamental principles of the oracles of Alahym? Well, let's look and see. Deuteronomy 6 and 4. Deuteronomy 6:3, actually. Joanne. Hear therefore, O Yasharal, and observe to do, that it might be well with you, that you might increase mightily, as Yahuwah Alahym and your Abbas have promised you, in the land that flow with milk and honey. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah Alahym, one Yahuwah. And you shall love Yahuwah your Alahym with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. Let's look at the next thing, which would be the first principles of the oracles of Alahym. Leviticus 19:18. Yeah, we could have read it in Mark. I didn't want to. 19 and 17, excuse me. Well, yeah, 19 and 18 would work, but I'll give you 17. Shoot, I'll give you 15. Matter of fact, I'll take you all the way to verse 11. 19 and 11. You shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie to one another. You shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shall you profane the name of your Alahym, I, Yahuwah. Now, again, we can read this in Zechariah, and we just might read this, but this is how you know how you're supposed to behave yourself in the house of Alahym. You heard? What's happening with you, homie? So, yeah. See, behaving yourself in the house of Alahym is just not limited to what you do at a physical gathering. Because Yahusha is the house of Alahym. He told you, destroy this temple and I'll rebuild it in 3 days. Like I said, a lot of individuals want to use the trope that he doesn't dwell in temples made with hands as an excuse to function in a disorderly fashion. When that's not what that's talking about. You have to understand the context of the statement. The statement meant that the Ark of the Covenant, that he did not seek to dwell in a building made with hands, because shalom, Brother Rob, a lot of people who make these statements are unlearned, walking around here upset, mad with the church. You don't know what you're talking about, because you should have been in Chronicles to know. He says, shall the heavens of heavens contain you? How much more to this house that I've built? Because you would have known that Yahuwah wanted to dwell amongst his people. Because if that was the case, they wouldn't have had synagogues in the time of the Lord. So don't listen to these people who just want to do what they want to do, but scream the law and scream culture and scream all these things. Shalom is, man. And all these things. And these niggas don't know what they talking about in the literal sense. That's what you get. Verse 12. And you shall not... I read that. I'm sorry. Verse 13. You shall not defraud your neighbor, neither rob the wages of him that is hired, shall not abide with you all night until the morning. You shall not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your Alahym, I, Yahuwah. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. You shall not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty. And righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. You shall not go up and down a talebearer among your people, neither shall you stand in the blood of your neighbor, I, Yahuwah. For those who don't know what a talebearer is, that is a slanderer. That is a slanderer. Talebearing is not gossiping. You have to know what gossip is by definition. Gossip is speaking on things of which you cannot confirm or validate due to firsthand knowledge. That is what it means to gossip. Gossip, for lack of a better term, would be bearing false witness on somebody if you stated that somebody did something or said something and you did not hear it yourself. Or you did not see it yourself. That's what technically gossip would be. You'd be bearing false witness. If you stated it in the terms as if it was factual, or as if you saw or heard this yourself. See, being a gossiper is more along the lines of being a busybody, involving yourselves in other men's matters and things that don't concern you. But being a talebearer is going around lying on people. You know what I'm talking about? That's literally what that is. Going around intentionally and willfully lying on people. See, you could be gossiping and not intentionally be lying on nobody because you just like to share things that don't pertain to you. You know what I'm talking about? But you don't know if it happened. Somebody just told you that it happened. Nevertheless, verse 17, you shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall in any wise rebuke your neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. You shall not avenge nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself, I, Yahuwah. Now, these are the way that you're supposed to behave yourself in the house of Alahym. See, a lot of people want to talk about that. A brother would just had this room before we came on here, he was talking about, because he said he followed a lot of Christian pastors and gospel singers. A lot of people playing church, but you not the body, though. You play real good, though. You look the part. You know what I'm saying? It's very few people that want to do that. Most people want to take this word to fit the narrative that they desire for the word to communicate, to further whatever means they got in their mind, instead of just going with what the man said, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, irregardless if it's what you want or it doesn't matter. See, when you get caught up on the aspect that you wanted to say what you wanted to say in order to support the particular notion, doctrine, thought process, movement that you feel like the word should do, you going to hell. Because that man didn't say all of that. And why do I say you going to hell? Not because you're trying to move the word to fit your narrative, but you're going to find yourself outside the bounds of Kadoshness in the wrong place at the wrong time. And your faith ain't going to be where it's supposed to be, and you're going to get caught outside and wondering why. Let's come back over here to Hebrews 5. So when you hear people talking about, oh, we the Israelites and the law, them niggas on milk, G. That's basic. That's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's basic, man. You been had that. Let me show you this here because it's just how I feel right now. Matthew 11. Matthew 11 and 7. Ain't gonna hurt nobody. Matthew 11 and 7. And as they departed, Yahushua began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, what you went out to the wilderness to see, a reed shaken with the wind? But what you went out for to see, a man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft are in kings' houses. But that when you went out to see a prophet, I say unto you more than a prophet, for this is of whom it is written, behold, I send my messenger before your face, which shall prepare your way before you. Truly I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there have not risen greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the Malkuth for Alahym is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the Malkuth for Alahym suffer violence, and the violence take it by force. For all the prophets in the law prophesied until John. And as you know, it's saying Luke, the law and the prophets was until John. Now the kingdom of heaven is preached, and everybody's pressed into it. See, the kingdom of heaven, man, the reign of eternity, the reign of Alahym, that's where the revelation and understanding is at. That's where the eternal life is at. And if you're not on that, you ain't really talking about nothing. To just be 100% honest with you. You ain't talking about nothing. At that point, you still sitting down in that same garden, eating from that same tree that got Adam booted out. Like you don't have eternal life in you. But ain't nobody going to tell you that. And you know why ain't nobody going to tell you that? Because they want to serve Yahuwah how they want to serve Yahuwah. And they want to move how they want to move. Because they don't actually want to follow the structure and the order that the man set and humble themselves and just be under the charge like the man ordained and commanded. Because this has never been no freelance thing of just people just doing what they want to do. That's nigga stuff in 2024. And when you see niggas doing this, they doing this because they hate authority, they hate accountability, and they hate structure. See, individuals want to be able to free flow. See, this is the difference in ancient times versus now. People say they're looking for a church home, they're looking for a camp. Then people didn't move like that. They didn't move like that. They went in fellowship wherever they were at that particular time. Now, of course, you know, you have the internet. So that's a little different. They didn't have that. So if they were in Galilee, then that's where they would go to the synagogue and fellowship at. And who was ever ordered over that particular synagogue, then they would submit themselves to that individual. So when you see them creating congregations in Ephesus and Caesarea Philippi and in Corinth and in Rome and in Jerusalem and all throughout the land, as you've seen, as we read last week, you know, they ordained elders in every city. Whoever stepped into a particular assembly, they humbled themselves unto the authority of that man who was over that assembly. See, niggas don't have that type of thought process now. See, you feel like you should be able to go into any assembly, anywhere, and upset the apple cart because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do. And you going to hell. Because that man ain't told you to do that. That's your stuff. Where do you see anybody doing that? You don't see any conflict between Mashiach and the Pharisees until they step to him. He didn't go out looking for conflict. He didn't go out trying to prove false prophets wrong. He didn't go out trying to correct and prove people doctrine wrong. There were souls to save. He was concerned with a greater task. You're not concerned with that task. You're concerned with whatever it is that you're concerned with, the one thing that God himself don't care about. And then you call yourself doing this man work, and you're going to go to hell. You know what I'm talking about? And I say that because he says many people going to come and say, we spoke in your name and prophesied in your name. And he going to say, man, I don't know you, cuz. That's a serious deal right there. You understand what I'm telling you? Yes, I know. That's a serious deal. That's not nothing light. Ain't nothing to play with. Let me show you something in Hebrews 13 real fast, man. Y'all know the passage. Whatever we want to pick this up at. Hebrews 13 and 7. I start there. I'll run it all the way down because there's two instances in the same chapter. Peace, Brother Omar. Listen what he say. That's what he said, man. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. Or, you know what I'm saying? Most people, as forth as English, go to lawlessness. But, you know, when you look at it as forth as in Hebrew, you know, that's a bond. You're perverse. You're deprived. You have perverted that which is just. Yeah, man, you done perverted stuff. That ain't no good place to be, you did. Hebrews 13 and 7. Remember them which have the rule over you, which have spoken unto you the word of Alahym, whose faith follow, considering the end of conduct. Notice that he said, remember them that have rule over you. So when you pause, you would look at, this is right, you would want to consider Abraham, who had rule over his house. You would want to consider Melchizedek. You would want to consider Moses. You would want to consider Yahushua, son of Nun. You would want to consider David. You would want to consider Solomon. You would want to consider Nehemiah. You would want to consider Ezra. As forth as their faith is concerned and their conduct of behavior, because they have rule over you. See, nobody's paying attention to that piece yet, man. Nobody paying attention to that. He said you need to remember them. Of course, you know, in Hebrew, remember is the car. I'm not looking it up in Greek. I don't care at this moment. And that's a memorial. And he said that the faith, the exhibition of faith that they have, you need to follow after that. Verse 8, Yahushua HaMashiach, the same yesterday and today and forever. Be not carried about with diverse and strange doctrines. Now they're giving you a warning. All that getting carried about with all this different type of stuff that y'all care about, that you think that they're in the third. Man, that man say, man, don't get caught up into that. You're going to get carried away. He say, for a good thing that the heart be established with grace and not with meats, which have not profited them that have been occupied therein. So then he's telling you the stuff that you getting carried away with, it's not even benefiting you. But yet you still fooling with it. That's a high level of stupidity, if you ask me. We have an altar whereof they have, this is verse 10. They have no right to eat, which serve the tabernacle. For the bodies of those beasts, whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin, are burned without the camp. Wherefore Yahushua also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Let us go forth therefore unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach, for we have no continuous city. Shalom, Sister Regina. But we seek one to come. By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to Alahym continually. That is the fruit of lips, giving thanks to his name. But to do good and to communicate, forget not, for which such sacrifices Alahym is well pleased. Now, we can come back to those things, because that's a whole nother conversation. You understand? He said, obey them that have the rule over you, and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls, as that they must give account, and that they might do it with joy and not with grief, for it is unprofitable for you. Now, verse 17. What's the first? What passages of the text come to mind when he say not focusing on the obey and to submit yourselves, but for they watch for your souls as they must give account? Yes, Jamal. Does anything come to your mind with that particular spot? Notice that this writer is telling you to obey them and submit to them that have authority over you. Now, why would this man tell you this? Shalom, Moon. Why would this man tell you this? Why is this in here? Because if this is in here, it's in your law. If this is in here, this is in the prophets. You always have to remember that. If it's in these epistle letters, it's in your law. Indeed, Stanley. It's in your letter. Now look at what he said in Ezekiel 33. Because he said they watch for your souls, man, and they got to give account. You say when the judge is appointed, I can allow it. I can allow it. But this was the one I was referring to more specifically. Ezekiel 33:1. And the word of Yahuwah came unto me, saying, Son of Adam, speak to the sons of your people, and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon the land, if the people of the land take a man of their coast to set him for a watchman, because you know every Hebrew love to say they're a watchman, but you can't make yourself a watchman. Yahuwah make you a watchman. Because if you see everybody say that's why people say they run up on people and hit them with word because they're a watchman. Man, you ain't a watchman if you ain't been hired, boy. It's not your job and duty to run up on people and warn them, man, if that's not your job. A watchman is a safar, side, pay, hey, to look out for, to keep watch, to watch and watch closely, to observe. Listen, he say, for if when he see the sword come upon the land and he blow the trumpet and warn the people. So pause. Come over here and look at Numbers chapter 10 when you see the sword come to warn the people now. See, like everybody like to get a ram's horn and just blow on it. You know what I'm talking about? No pause. I meant that sincerely. You know what I'm talking about? And you just doing stuff because you playing. You're not understanding the significance of what you're doing and why you're doing it. You're just doing it because you think it look cool. You want to put on outfits. You want to put on cultural garb and things out of the text and play with that like that means something. Like that means something. But your soul is in peril. Because the people is grossly out of order. Grossly. And you know what I'm talking about? When you talking about out of order, you're talking about disorderly. That's why you have so much confusion and all these other things. Is that a reason why most don't take heed? Because they're not hearing it. I would say so. I would say the biggest problem, and I was getting to that actually, Derek. That's the biggest problem because nobody actually wants to deal with if that man is really an apostle, this person's really a prophet, this person's really a pastor, really an evangelist, really a teacher. Everybody want to be like, I ain't no follower, I'm a leader. Sit your goofy behind down somewhere, nigga. You know what I'm talking about? Because none of your forefathers had this attitude. Men who have a memorial in heaven, who are way more righteous than we could ever dare imagine to be, didn't think like this. Jacob didn't. Isaac surely didn't. Abraham didn't. David didn't. Noah didn't. You better than them? My God, today. You got to think about that, man. David could have killed the man. He knew he was going to be king. He never usurped this man's authority. He submitted himself to the rule of a man who was trying to kill him. A man who he knew whose place he was going to take. And he never did nor said none of this stuff y'all be out here saying. Not one time. And ain't nobody trying to kill you. And you ain't going to take nobody's place. But see, you'll look at that type of stuff and you'll read it, but you don't lay that to mind about the execution of godly behavior and conduct of a true saint. You know what I'm talking about? You don't have the thought process to do that. That means you would have been in the wilderness with them with Korah trying to buck Moses. But don't nobody want to talk about that. That's why the nigga be lying to y'all talking about it's an obligation for every Hebrew man to spread this truth. No, it's not. You can't read that nowhere. That's where the confusion and the disorder come at. Because you have an untrained, unhired official laboring in a vineyard that he ain't got no business being in. When that man say every scribe which is instructed in the kingdom of heaven. Before you do a job, you get taught in the job. You get trained in the job before you go do it. You just don't start working and you don't know what the hell you doing. I'm going to figure it out as I go. Man, you going damn souls, boy. What's wrong with you? And the people love it so. That's the sad part. Numbers chapter 10, verse 1. Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, make you 2 trumpets of silver, of a whole piece shall you make them, that you may use them for the calling of assembly and for the journeying of the camps. And when you shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to you at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So, now remember this here, right? A lot of people use a ram's horn. Your law say to make you a silver trumpet. That's why I'm not using no ram's horn to call no assembly. Because see, when you blow that horn, everybody's supposed to gather to the door. Or they're supposed to come in. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, you don't really read in a multitude of places of people doing that. And we've dealt with the testimony side of that. I'm not dealing with that tonight. If you want to do that, you could do that. But at this particular time, we're not journeying in the wilderness, so there's no need to do that. To be 100% honest with you, but that's what the feast memorial blowing the trumpets is about. He's about to tell you that, though. He said, if they blow with one, then the princes, heads of the thousands of Yasharal, shall gather themselves unto you. And this is an example of the gathering of the 144,000 out of the law, but that's another conversation. And when you blow an alarm, then the camps that lie on the east part shall go forward. When you blow an alarm the second time, the camps that lie on the south side shall take their journey, and they shall blow an alarm for their journeys. But when the congregation is gathered together, you shall blow, but you shall not sound an alarm. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall blow with the trumpets, and they shall go to you an ordinance forever throughout your generations. And if you go to war in your land against the enemy that oppress you, you shall blow an alarm with the trumpets, and you shall be remembered before Yahuwah your Alahym, and you shall be saved from your enemies. Also, in the day of your gladness and your solemn days, in the beginning of your months, you shall blow with trumpets over your burnt offerings, over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be for you a memorial for before your Alahym, Yahuwah your Alahym. So what did we read all this for? You know, every Israelite loves to talk about that particular verse in Isaiah. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Just look at it. Everybody know it. You probably done. If you watch anybody on YouTube for a manner of time in your day, you done heard them say it. If you know any Hebrews on Facebook, you done seen it. They love to throw that out there when they call themselves correcting people. Isaiah 58:1, cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet, show my people their transgressions, in the house of Jacob their sins. Now, why did I read that? Because at the end of the day, there's not a watchman in a tower to blow an alarm for you when the sword comes. So the preacher in the congregation is akin to what you just read in Numbers 10 and what's being said right here. He blows the trumpet of alarm for the people so that the sword of Alahym, Yahushua HaMashiach, don't come and take you away in your sins. It's as simple as that. He said in that particular verse, if they read down, he tells them what their sins are. Indeed, he does. Indeed, he does. Indeed, he does. Because he said, y'all forsook not the, you act like you just, but you around here fasting for strife and debate, and you smite with the fist of wickedness. You ain't trying to be heard. You ain't humbled yourself. You just want to be, you don't want to let the oppressed go free. You don't want to break every yoke. You just want to be evil and argue. That's what it said. You just want to be evil and argue. Now that's tough. That's tough. You know what I'm talking about? You got Jeremiah 6? Well, come on and look at it then. Go to Omar, put Jeremiah 6 on there. Come on, let's look at it then. Jeremiah chapter 6. I give you verse 9. You know what? I give you 6 because that's how I'm feeling. Jeremiah 6:6. Listen what it say. For thus have Yahuwah of hosts said, hew down the trees and cast a mount against Jerusalem. This city is to be visited. She has holy oppression in the midst of her. What does oppression mean? Because, of course, we're talking about execution of offices. Also, as far as we'll be talking about offerings and tithes and all that type of stuff, which is a very quick conversation, which is why we ain't even really delved into that. Because I'm not going to lie to you. The offerings and the tithes is a quick conversation. You know what I'm saying? They don't even take that long. If you run across somebody, man, and they have to draw out a tithes and offering conversation over an extended period of time, that means just trying to find a way to get some money up out of you, man. Because at the end of the day, it's very simple. All you got to do is look at what they gave offerings for, and you can see that they were free will and voluntary. And of course, you got burnt offerings, sin offerings, and of course, sin offerings and burnt offerings. You can't even offer them anyway. You know what I'm talking about? As it pertains to certain things, as forth as the tabernacle of witness and the tabernacle of the congregation, the people gave a free will offering. You'll look and see as it pertains to the building of the temple of Yahuwah, the people gave a free will offering. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have already been shown and instructed on numerous occasions that you only tithe 3 times a year. I just had a conversation with somebody on Facebook about this because they shared some reel where Corey Hope and them clowning about tithes and all this type of stuff, and people use tithes was never money. You're wrong. Or you ain't got it. They don't speak about this in the New Testament. And I'm like, you niggas are idiots. And I say that sincerely. And this is why I press to y'all to remember this here, man. It's a lot of things that aren't mentioned in the New Testament because they didn't have to be. See, only an unlearned person would think, well, if it ain't in the New Testament, then it doesn't even matter. That's an unskilled, unlearned person. You got to remember something, man. Isaiah 46:10, I told you the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. You understand? So what you see in the New Testament is the end. What really is the beginning, excuse me. And what you see in the Old Testament is the end. We were talking about this the other day, and I told you this plenty of time, man. Man, the word Alahym is just like a movie on BET, man. When he say, yeah, man, I bet you wondering how I ended up here. And then they tell the story. But he was telling you the end from the beginning. That's literally a movie starting like that is telling you the end from the beginning and walking you back down to get to that ending point. So what you see in the New Testament is the beginning, not the end. That's the beginning. Anybody who don't know that, they're not supposed to be teaching you no word. Because they're supposed to know that. So what do I mean by that? That means everything in the New Testament, man, it's in the Old. That means the people were taught this in the Old. They don't have to go down and break every single solitary thing down. These people already knew that. Which is what everybody fails to take into account. That those people were already taught in the law and the prophets already, except for the Gentiles. So they were getting straight gospel of Yahushua HaMashiach. It's you who don't know the law. It's you who don't know the prophets. It's you who don't know the gospel. And you think you know more than them. That's unfortunate. He said, yeah, because the things were already established in the New Testament. And we don't learn the alphabet or addition or subtraction in high school. Who you telling? Yeah, think about that, man. Them people, and we talked about that plenty of time before. Them people already knew these things. They already knew not to eat pork. Why would they need to sit around and talk about it? They already knew to keep the Sabbath. Why would they need to sit around and talk about it? We approach these letters that are being written to these people as if they didn't know because you just learning about it. You think they didn't know it either. See, you projecting your level of ignorance and arrogance on a group of people who that ain't got nothing to do with them. They're not coming from a deficient point of view as we are. You say, yeah, I hear in the by people, they say we are Melchizedek and say, tithe 10% because Abraham did. Well, I mean, they would be accurate because the tithe had nothing to do with Levi. That deals with the priesthood, period. That's why Abraham and Jacob did it. It has nothing to do with Levi. Yahuwah gave it to Levi because Levi were his priests. But it's a standard that had been set. This is what this is what I told the dude. I'm like, he tell you that in Hebrews 7, man. I mean, but I understand why people don't want to do it because they see people getting fleeced. But guess what? Why are you giving money to a false prophet in the first place? Why are you being taught by an unlearned person and then getting upset because you gave a false teacher your money? Why are you there in the first place? Bump your money. Why is you sitting there getting bad work that's going to damn your soul? That's the question you really should be asking. Because why are you there? Much less giving your resources. Why are you even there listening to that hot garbage? That's why Peter said in Acts, I never ate those. Yeah, man, let me tell you something. I seen a dude who he posted asking for alms so he can get the work of the ministry done. That's how I know you ain't been sent. No man who God sent gonna tell the people, ask the people to get him alms if he traveling preaching. The man had already told his disciple, man, go wherever you going. And don't go from house to house. And whoever take you in, whatever they give you, take that, because the labor is worthy of his hire. Man, if that man sent you to do that, you ain't got to ask nobody for nothing. When you going from city to city, they gonna look out for you. You say if it's accuracy, what should it go to in today's time? I mean, it goes to, you only supposed to tithe if you're a part of an assembly. You understand? So if there's an individual who is laboring in Yahuwah's vineyard and you are part of that, and you only supposed to do it for unleavened bread, tabernacles, and Pentecost. It's not a weekly thing. It's not a monthly thing. It's only 3 times a year you're supposed to do that. And of course, y'all know that. And I hammer that home so you can know that. Just in case somebody come at you on some different type of time. You supposed to know that. If a nigga come telling you where your tithes at this week, you already know God didn't, he don't work for Yahuwah. He don't work for Yahuwah. Number one, because anybody who work for Yahuwah ain't gonna ask you for your tithe. Because they would already have taught it to you and you would have already known what to do. I'm not asking you for nothing. Ever. For what? If you don't do it, take that up with Yahuwah. That's between you and him. That's what people don't understand. Ain't nobody got to pass no plate around. You know it's a treasury. You're supposed to drop it. You can see that in the text. Ain't nobody supposed to have to tell you to do nothing that you've been taught what to do. The same way nobody shouldn't have to tell you not to be a homosexual, not to be a whoremonger, not to be an adulterer. You already should know to do that because you've been taught that. And the word's supposed to be in you and you're supposed to execute off of what's in you. It's that simple. It's not hard. Nigga coming at you about some money, man, God ain't something damn, man. Man, if you going from city to city to preach the word, what the hell you ask? That's not even alms. Boy, alms is for the poor. You know what I'm talking about? Remember when we were looking at that in Corinthians, man, and we could double back to it. We looked at it a couple weeks ago. Not weeks ago, I'm sorry. A few months ago. Talking about a chill forgiver and all this type of stuff. That ain't got nothing to do with tithes, man. That ain't got nothing to do with offerings. That ain't got nothing to do with none of that. That's something totally separate, totally removed from the financial system that Yahuwah set up. Ain't got nothing to do with that. That's you on your own volition looking out for somebody who is in need. That's what that is. But they don't tell you that. What do people like to do? And they like to take the tithe and offering system of Yahuwah and the giving system and mix them. Now, see, we talked about this before, and I told these people this in that thread. Y'all know this already, though. The tithe come in, and the priest still has to tithe 1/10 of the tithe that he receives. He got to do that because who was it for? The priest, the fatherless, the widows, and the stranger. That's who the tithe is for. That's what your law teach you. That's who it's for. Why? Obviously for the stranger, because he would be without since he's a stranger in the commonwealth of Yasharal. Obviously for a widow because she don't have a husband, so that means she don't have a provider. Obviously for an orphan because they don't have any parents and they're not able to financially provide for themselves because they're a child. And the Levite don't have an inheritance among you. Yahuwah is his inheritance, and Yahuwah has instructed you to drop this off to give to them because they're laboring, serving you. But that comes down to this point right here. Number one, most of these men don't want to serve you. They want to be served. And number two, you don't value the service that men who work for Yahuwah are given for your soul. You undervalue it. You don't appreciate it. You don't regard it. But you regard your dry cleaner. You regard your car detailer. You regard your personal trainer. You regard anybody else who offers a service to you with no thought or idea or question in your mind. I'm talking about the men. I'm not talking about y'all specifically. I'm talking about our people as a whole who deal with this word. Now, let that be known. I'm talking about our people as a whole. You don't regard them. You don't value the service. This is not like what them Christian people saying that the pastor's supposed to be fly and ride clean and all this. No. That man is working on your behalf. Because without him, where would you be? Because he says you can't hear without a preacher. And the preacher can't preach except he be sent. Shalom, Demetri, man. So where are you going to be? And that goes for all of us. Nobody's exempt from that. Without a preacher, we all going to hell. Because how you going to get the word? Don't listen to these niggas talking about go make a relationship yourself. That's not possible. How's that possible? How you going to make a relationship with somebody you don't know, who you never heard of? Oh, you thought because you just opened up the book and read it that would get it? Well, how many of y'all opened up the book and read it for years and you still didn't have an Akkad interaction with Yahuwah? You still didn't have Yada with him. You didn't know him by experience. How did that work out for you? So we know that doesn't work because that's not how Yahuwah did it. Because even if Abraham went to Melchizedek and got word, I don't know how the hell you think you ain't got to go. Like, come on, man, what are we doing? Because we playing church. You know what I'm talking about? We playing church. You think it's a game. You think it's a game. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I don't know how factual this is, but I told you about the brother who got arrested by his son. Let me tell y'all something, man. I don't care how much you dislike a ministry or whoever. Man, if ain't nobody actually came out and said they did something, or it ain't been proven that they did something, man, you don't need to be walking around with no level of contempt, and you don't know if a person really did something or not. You have to wait back and let all things come to pass in its time. You don't judge something before the time. That's not righteous execution. Now, allegedly, this man say his son was behaving inappropriately sexually, I believe, with other young children. And he was like, if we was in our land, he'd be killed. See, I'll let you know right then, Spirit of God ain't in him. God forbid that man said that. Now, allegedly, that was recorded. But God forbid that. I hope that man ain't say that. But I know based off their organization and how they taught, he probably did. Because they taught like that. Now, I didn't mention that to disparage this man because I really don't care about nothing he got going on. I mentioned that because of this, that this people is devoid of mercy. Like what you read in John 9, when he say, and I heard somebody try to break this down the other night. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I'm talking about, it was abominable instruction to say the least. But when you look at when Mashiach told them people, he that's without sin cast the first stone. And he says, woman, no man condemn you. She said, nay, Lord. He said, I don't condemn you either. Go and sin no more. Anytime somebody, these niggas see a sin, they talking about stoning them, killing them, any of that type of stuff. That's the first thing come to these niggas' mind. God ain't in it. Let that be known. Because that's not the operation of Yahuwah. You ain't never seen that nowhere. You ain't never seen that nowhere. When this man say he plenteous, shalom, brother mom, he plenteous in mercy, ready to forgive, gracious and merciful. Get your goofy behind out of here. And y'all listen to niggas like that and give money to niggas like that because you fall for the gimmicks. You know what I'm talking about? You don't look for the characteristics of Yahuwah. You fall for the gimmicks. And then when it come out that these people sour, now you mad. Don't be mad because you didn't do what Yahuwah told you to do. Don't be mad because you didn't try to ruach to see if they was from Alahym or not. Don't be mad because you didn't search the scriptures daily to see if those things were so. Don't be mad because you didn't look for the grace and the mercy and the abundance of goodness and truth. Amen, Mother Sharon. Because you didn't look for that. Because you didn't look for the long suffering. Because you didn't look for the forgiveness. Because you didn't look for those attributes. Because it was too Christian-y for you. So you didn't look for that. And now you mad. Don't be mad at nobody but yourself. Because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Man, before you send anybody a Russian nickel, you supposed to make sure that person from God first. You have to make sure that that instruction that you're receiving is from God before you give them anything. Now, if you a part of something they're talking about like the voluntary or free will offerings as forth as the execution of the things of Yahuwah, that's a different conversation. But even still, why are you a part of an organization that's sour? And when I say sour, I'm not talking about because some of the members are sinning, because that's going to happen. I'm talking about sour as forth as the people who run it, that they sour. Why you doing that? Didn't Ezekiel tell you not to do it? Let me move on. Let me finish this Jeremiah 6. This is done here because these niggas crazy. Indeed, we'll run around now. Jeremiah 6. Oh, I didn't give you the definition for oppression, which is why we went on that extended conversation just then. I'm sorry. And of course, y'all know what oppression is. It's oshek, oppression, extortion, injury, gain by extortion, money or unjust gain, deceitfully gotten. There's individuals who are getting gain or increase through deceit. My God, today. Jeremiah 6 and 7. As the fountain cast out her water, so she cast out her wickedness, violence, and spoil is heard in her. Before me continually grief and wounds. Of course, that's dealing with Mashiach being hung on the stake. Violence and spoil was before him, you know what I'm saying? Because they cast lots and part of my garments, and continually before him was sorrow and wounds. Be you instructed, O Jerusalem, let my soul depart from you, lest I make you desolate, a land not inhabited. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, they shall thoroughly glean the remnant of Yasharal as a vine, turn back your hand as a grape gather into the baskets. To whom shall I speak and give warning, that they may hear? Behold, their ear uncircumcised. They cannot hearken, because the word of Yahuwah is unto them a reproach. They have no delight in it. He said, if I didn't run into the word, I wouldn't be looking for a testimony. Well, praise be to Yahuwah for that. Listen. That man said they ear uncircumcised. If your ear uncircumcised, your heart uncircumcised. Most people don't have a delight in this man's word. You have a delight in the parts of the word that you like to read and talk about and push because you want to push a particular narrative. We don't push no narratives over here. We deal with the totality of Alahym's word and to say what it say, and he meant what he meant, and it's going to be what it's going to be. I don't have no personal stock or opinion to invest because whatever he said, that's what it is. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? Everybody don't have that thought process when it comes to certain things like that. Whatever that man said, that's what it is. It doesn't matter what I think. It don't matter what I feel. It doesn't matter. And that's what a lot of people's problem is. That's why you can't submit to them that have rule over you. Because you care about what you think and what you feel. You feel like that should matter. That should take precedent over the order that this man has set up. It doesn't matter. Now, see, when Marvin did mention that, made me think about any of y'all who've been in the military, you know how that goes. People don't care about what you feel or think. Follow the orders. It's really that simple. I don't care if you don't agree with the order, follow it. See, nigga get in the point, it's the same way while everybody go to talking about, if he ain't look here, man, once you married to somebody, I don't give a damn if you're not righteous. You better do what he told you to do. Because that's what Yahuwah require of you. Because I see women every day online say this here. Well, if he a righteous man, he got to submit to God first. Well, stupid hoe, why you married a man who didn't submit to God first then? That means you a dummy. How you going to talk about you not going to submit to a man who don't submit to God, but you married a man who didn't submit to God and you knew that going in? There's no such thing as conditional or obedience or submission in any area of life. It doesn't exist. Those things go along with whatever vocation that you in. That's a sign of humility on your behalf. And if you don't have that level of humility and meekness, that means you don't have it at all. If it has to be done based off the conditions of what another person does, you don't possess it. You don't possess it. You don't have it in you. And that's a hard reality. That some people just don't have that in them. What you want me to do about that? You know what I'm talking about? I can't do nothing about that. So you mean to tell me if there was a man, I ain't going to submit to this brother because I don't agree to his doctrine. Nigga, what? But you at his assembly in his house. What do you mean? It doesn't matter. You didn't see one time where Mashiach walked in them scribes and Pharisees in them synagogues and disrespected the men to the point that he said, I'm going to overthrow your authority when he had authority over them and he knew they knew it. And he knew that he had authority over them. And he never walked around in them man's ground and overthrew what they had going on because he could. So why you doing it when he didn't do it? Oh my God, today. Don't nobody want to hear that because you feel like I'm supposed to cut this doctrine down. Well, the Lord didn't do it. You don't read nobody in the book doing that. They let them false prophets be. They let them tell them lies. You know why? Because you already had the word. You supposed to know not to listen. Because Deuteronomy 13 already told you that. I don't care if that prophet or dreamer of dreams word come to pass. He said, I did that to prove you, to see if you love Yahuwah, your Alahym or not. That's what they there for. Not for you to get in no doctrinal battle and cut them up. You already know what the words say. So you're supposed to ignore them. Not go to battle with them. Not go fight and argue with them. That's your flesh and that's your pride. Hush your mouth. That's your flesh and that's your pride. That's not of God. He never sent none of them more to go do none of that. If he sent him to do it, he sent a specific individual to tear somebody down, like he sent Elijah to tear Ahab down. You know what I'm talking about? He ain't sending you to go tear nobody church down. Because if he said if they blind leaders of the blind, he said leave them alone. But nah, you want to fight, fuss, and argue all day. Talking about you doing the work of the Lord. You a lie if you ever told one. Verse 11, Jeremiah 6. Therefore, I am full of the fury of Yahuwah. I am weary with holding in. I will pour it out upon the sons abroad and upon the assembly of young men together. For even the husband with the wife shall be taken. The aged with that is full of days. Now, listen, this is the point. We spend so much time wanting to fight and destroy these people's doctrine that you forgetting about the people who need the word. Because you focused on a false prophet. Because you focus on a doctrine you believe you don't agree with. What about the people who dying? You ain't thought about them? I know you didn't, because you don't work for the Lord. That's why you ain't thought about it. Because anybody who worked for the Lord, they wouldn't be concerned with a false teacher. They're going to be concerned with the people. Verse 12. And their houses shall be turned unto others, fields and wives together. For I stretch my hand upon the inhabitants of the land, saith Yahuwah. Hush, 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 hush. No, 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 no. From the least of them, even to the greatest of them, every one given to covetousness, even from the prophet, even unto the priest, every one deal falsely. Look at what he said. Say the prophet and the priest, they dealing falsely, and they all giving it to their lust. They have healed also the hurt of my people slightly, saying peace, peace. When there's no peace, that's what they're doing you right now. We the chosen people, the kingdom coming. They healing your hurt slightly, but you ain't got no peace because you ain't got no ruach. How you got peace and you ain't got the Spirit of God? That means God ain't with you. Why are you so hard-headed? Yeah, you don't like to listen. Leave it alone. No cleaning. You're not going to clean tonight. Not right now. Yeah, no. Verse 15, Jeremiah 6. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? Nay, they were not at all ashamed. Neither could they blush. Neither shall they fall among them. Therefore they shall fall among them that fall. At the time I visit them shall they be cast down, saith Yahuwah. I seen somebody was talking about certain sins people be doing, and the first thing the people say, man, we got to be easy with each other. We all growing and learning. Man, we need to stop that crap, man. A lot of these niggas been in the word for years. These niggas know what they doing. Talking about everybody growing and learning. How you still learning not to be how you ain't learned how not to be an evil bastard within 1 year? I ain't saying you may necessarily have your flesh under control in 12 months, but I would wager you would learn to stop being an evil bastard in 12 months. Nigga been in the word 10 years, do some sour junk, nigga make excuses for him. Come on, man, gotta cut the crap. Because that's the difference between the men of God before and the people now. The men of God before you who is not accepting those excuses. He's not accepting that from you. This is what you want to do. And you just don't want to say that. Nevertheless. Thus saith Yahuwah, stand you in the ways and ask for the old path. Where's the good way? Walk therein. You shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk. Also, I said, watchmen over you, hearken to the sound of the trumpet. They said, we will not hearken. And that's the point. He said, I said, watchmen over you, but you said, I'm not gonna listen. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. It's irrelevant to me. And this is why he's telling you, hearken over those who watch for your soul. They have to give account. Back to Ezekiel 33. And this is part of how you behave in the house of Alahym. There is a structure and an order set. But again, it goes back to the point what I imparted on you last week, and I impart on you on a regular basis. Just because this person has rule and authority does not mean they rule over you with rigor. Let me show you that in your law, Leviticus 25. Just so you know it's in your law. So when you see Peter say it, you know why he said it. Leviticus chapter 25. Verse 42, for they, my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Mizraim, they shall not be sold as bondmen. You shall not rule over him with rigor. You shall fear your Alahym. Both your bondmen and your bondmaids, which you shall have of the heathen that are round about you, of them shall you buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, the son of the stranger that do sojourn among you, them shall you buy, and of the families that with you, which they shall begat in your land, they shall be your possession. You shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you to inherit a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the sons of Yasharal, you shall not rule one over another with rigor. That's what your law says. We ain't supposed to be ruling over each other. Let me let y'all know what rigor is, just in case. We didn't talk about this before, but because we dealing with this here, we gonna run it back. You know, just stir up your mind, pure minds by way of remembrance, as the Apostle Peter put it. Rigor is correct. That is with harshness. That is with cruelty. That is with severity. To break apart, to rip apart. He said, nah, you can't rule over each other like that. So come over here to 1 Peter, and you're going to see Peter tell you the same thing. 1 Peter chapter 3. Now, this is pertaining to a pastor. Now, I'm going to get to something because I read that 1 Timothy 5:17 about give double honors to an elder. But I'm going to give you the contrast of what's in Corinthians. Because the contrast with an apostle and an elder, there's a contrast as it pertains to that. Now, like I said, I think it's the channel with my full government name on it. That we dealt with that years ago. Like I said, somebody asked, the Levites don't have an inheritance. Certain things the same way like that when Saul then went to go holler at Samuel, they brought a gift. These are the way that these people operate. Trust me, we don't operate no way how the men before operated, but I understand. I was talking to somebody about it earlier when I had mentioned to him what I done told y'all before, like when dude told me when I was locked up when I was 21, oh, you an Israelite. That didn't mean nothing to me because I didn't even know what that was. That had no relevance to me. He failed to explain it, but it literally had no relevance to me. So when I look at the things that people may have experienced in the church or in a Hebrew camp as it pertains to resources, I could understand the resentment and the bitterness because I was never involved in those type of things. So that it didn't mean anything to me. But I will say this here, I had enough sense to know I'm not finna give no nigga no money, man. I don't believe God with him. I knew that before any word, period. I'm not finna do that. I had enough sense to know, man, if I perceive God wasn't with him, I'm not even finna keep listening to this nigga. I'm just not. Do you know what I'm saying? And of course, looking back on it, that couldn't have been nobody but Yahuwah to give that type of thought process. But that's just where I was at as a teenager in the early 20s. When I'm going to listen to you and I don't believe God with you. Because you bring some word or you bring some information I ain't never heard before, that don't mean that I'm going to automatically think that God is with you. I just didn't think like that. You know what I'm saying? I know because I know people get caught up like that. I know, especially with this, somebody telling you Israelites and you've been in church your whole life and they showing you something in the Bible and you ain't know it was there or you didn't understand that there, and you just automatically believe that God was with them because they brought you some information. Versus, did this information actually draw you closer to your God for the saving of your soul, or was it just something that you didn't know? You understand? Because like I said before, when I first got in the word, I ain't had no access to no internet on no regular basis. So I only seen stuff when I was with my homeboy. And yeah, them niggas was saying stuff that I had, but I didn't believe. I was like, no. Oh, I'm not fooling with these niggas, man. No. And it wasn't I don't want to fool with them. I didn't perceive Yahuwah was with these people. Just because they breaking down this and breaking down that. I wasn't moved by none of that because it wasn't no words of faith attached to nothing that they was teaching. And if there's no words of faith attached to it, that mean ain't no ruach attached to it. And if ain't no ruach attached to it, that mean ain't no life attached to it. So why am I going to sit here and listen to this? And the one thing I figured out when I used to go with my homeboy, man, watch these videos, man, that you can learn these boy doctrine in 90 days. I knew God wasn't with him. If I can learn what you teaching in 90 days, and what I mean by that is you didn't have anything new. It was just, that's it. I said, yeah, God ain't with these people. This wasn't just one organization, it was multiple. And then I also noticed that all these people like to do is cut up people's doctrines and argue. I said, I know God ain't in that either. You know what I'm saying? I was like, no, he ain't in that because I don't see that in the book. That boy said 90-day course is diabolical. And this is when they were street. Now, I will give this here, right? When you preaching on the street, it ain't but so much that you can give to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Versus in an organized assembly setting. It's only so much you can give. Because proper instruction is to be done in an assembly so this person can actually be taken through the word and learn. Which is why these people went from house to house. And people would know that this man was in somebody's particular house, and the people of that community would come to where the man of God was to get the word. You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there. First, I said chapter 3, my bad. 1 Peter 5:1. The elders which are among you I exhort, whom also am an elder, and a witness of the sufferings of Mashiach, and also a partaker of the esteem that should be revealed. Feed the flock of Alahym which is among you, taking the oversight, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, and not as being lords over heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. But when the chief shepherd shall appear, you shall receive a crown of esteem that shall not fade away, which is what your law. You're not supposed to be ruling over this man inheritance with no rigor. You're supposed to do your job. You're supposed to hit him off with that word, and you ain't supposed to be doing it for no unjust gain, and you're supposed to be doing this with a ready mind. And you know what that is? That's a mind that takes delight in doing this man's will, not getting no esteem from man, I should say, not getting accolades and validation from man, not trying to get this, that, there, and the third, but doing it because this is what is delightful to the Lord. The Greek word for ready mind is prothomos, which is willingly, with alarcity, willingly. Oversight in this particular Greek word here is episcopo, to look carefully, to care for, to look after, to care for. So you're supposed to take care of these people and not by constraint. What is constraint? That's by force. You ain't supposed to try to take the care over the people by force. You know what I'm saying? You trying to, and that's what a lot of these people trying to do. They want to rule over people. If you already see them, if you see somebody trying to rule over people, God ain't with them. Because he ain't never sent nobody. The Lord himself say, you say I'm your Lord and master, and you say so. And he said, if I, your Lord and master, have washed your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet. The Lord himself didn't seek to rule over you with rigor. So why you following and being up under niggas who doing opposite of what the man who they say sent them did? Do y'all niggas actually pay attention to the character of the godly men in the text? Or you just looking at stuff and be like, well, he say he a God, so. Because your Lord didn't rule. If anybody could have ruled over anybody with rigor, it was Yahushua himself, and he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't severe. He didn't do any of those things. So once you see somebody doing that, then you know God ain't with them. It's not hard. But you know what y'all don't want to do? You don't want to say another black person. You don't want to say another person telling people that they Israelites. You don't want to say God ain't with them. You don't want to say that. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm not saying for you to go on a campaign and say it, but you don't want to say it to yourself. You don't want to acknowledge that the mass majority of Israelites you see teaching the word that Yahuwah ain't with them. You know what I'm talking about? Because that's a hard pill to swallow. But I don't know why, when that man told you the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few, when has Yahuwah all had a cavalcade, a cornucopia of pastors, apostles, preachers, and evangelists and teachers all throughout the whole world? He ain't never had that. And you're supposed to pick up on that from reading the word. Not because you was looking for it. You're supposed to be picking up on that to see how he operates. He's never done that. He's never done it. But you want to get to a time period and now and say, as we just read earlier, Yahushua HaMashiach is saying, yesterday, today, and forever. I'm Yahuwah, I change not. You love to say it when you run up on these Christians talking about keeping the law, but you don't want to say it when it comes to why would he start operating differently now? When he ain't never operated like this, because it's blocking you and what you want. My God, today. Lord, have mercy on our souls. Let's come back over here to Ezekiel 33. Now, I say these things for us to consider. Now, you could take it, you could do what you want to with them. Don't make me no never mind. You know what I'm talking about? But for your own soul's sake, you need to consider. Because again, it's about your soul. It's not about me. It's about your soul. It's not about a pastor over here, an assembly over there, a congregation. It ain't about none of that. It's about your soul. Because he's not going to ask you about no false prophet over here. He ain't going to ask you about no false assembly over there. He going to ask you about your works that you've done in your body, whether they be good or whether they be evil. That's the only thing he going to talk to you about. One thing you ain't never heard me do is name organizations specifically or preachers specifically and be like, I look down on them. Are some of them niggas trash? Absolutely. And that's not something that I'll spread nigga on this camera about. But I can tell you if somebody trash if you holler at me about it, if they nice with it. It's not hard to tell if somebody nice with the word. And it's not hard to tell if niggas trash. And a lot of these dudes are trash. But my perspective of the word is different from everybody else. Because I'm listening for something that's going to touch my soul, man. And these boys ain't touching nothing. To be 100% honest with you. They're not speaking comfortably to you. They're not speaking to your left. You people not speaking to your heart, man. These niggas just on here talking. They're giving you a lot of information, but they ain't giving you no salvation. So what that's going to do for you? But don't nobody want to hear that. Don't nobody want to hear that. Ain't that something? Ezekiel 33:3. If when he see the sword come upon the land and they blow the trumpet and warn the people, those who so hear the sound of the trumpet and take the warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. If you heard that word and you went ahead and did what you wanted to do, you going to hell. Because you heard the man say that the Lord was coming, and you sat your silly behind right there and got killed. You die. That's why he say, and your blood be upon you. That's why your law say that. Your blood going to be on your own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet and took not the warning, his blood shall be upon him. But he that take the warning shall deliver his soul. But if the watchman see the sword come and blow not the trumpet, and the people not be warned, if the sword come and take person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand. That's why he told you that. They watch for your soul and they got to give account. It's the preacher's job to warn you because he's watching for your soul. And if he don't say nothing, then guess what? And if you die in that sin, he going to hell for that. He going to bear accountability for the sin you died in because he ain't tell you nothing. And see, I ain't talking about telling your son is forfeit one-on-one because that's different if you tell him one-on-one. But a word is not coming to let you know that behavior is not acceptable before God. Your soul is in peril. You understand? But I mentioned that because we're talking about a pastor. Let's go back and look at these qualifications. Let's read this 1 Timothy 3, then I can give you the contrast of what I was talking about in 1 Corinthians 9 and 1 Timothy 5:17 and why there's a particular contrast. 1 Timothy 3:1. I'm going to make this swift. I'm not going into great detail and all these things. Y'all have heard it a numerous amount of times, so there's no need to do that. This a true saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desire a good work. A bishop then must be blameless. So a pastor has to be irreproachable. Remember 1 Corinthians 2 say, a spiritual man judgeth all things, and he's judged of no man. Why? Because he's born of Alahym. And he that is born of Alahym do not commit sin. He cannot sin because the word remains in him, because he is born of Alahym. So one of the first aspects for a bishop, someone to be an elder or a pastor over the organization, is he has to be blameless. Now, see, why is there no qualification for an apostle in that regard? Because he would already be considered that an apostle would be blameless before becoming one. Not because he was seeking the office of an apostle, because you can't seek that office. Now, does an apostle necessarily have to be quote unquote blameless all the way through? Obviously not, because Paul wasn't. But see, we got booked for that also to show you how that worked. That's the city of refuge deal based off what he said to Timothy. We ain't talked about that in a while. I might work it in this evening. Nevertheless, the husband of one wife, diligent, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, skilled to teach, not given to wine, nor striker, nor greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous, one that ruled well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. If a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the house of Alahym? Not a novice, that's less being lifted up with pride, he fall into condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have good report of them that are without, lest he fall in reproach and snare of the devil. Listen, if you see a nigga who like to get drunk, he's not a pastor. He might be one entitled, he not one in function. This nigga drunk, he don't work for God. You know why? Because remember what he told you in Isaiah 28. He said, man, the priest, let me just read it to you now. Man, the man word always give an answer to confirm why he say the things that he say. Don't you know it say the priest ain't supposed to drink wine in the law? Don't the law say that? He ain't supposed to be around here getting drunk? Why you think the Lord said, I won't drink this fruit of the vine with you till I drink it new in my Father's kingdom? Because he can't go into the inner sanctum in the Kadash sipping on no wine, man. Verse 7 of Isaiah 28. I'm sorry. But they also have erred through wine and through strong drink are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through drink. They swallowed up wine. They're out the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. That's why the pastor ain't supposed to be no goddamn drunk. Can't be given to that. Because you're going to err in judgment and you're going to stumble in vision and you're going to destroy the people. Put the wine down. Put the beer and the liquor down if you talking about you finna be a preacher to this man people. Because if you're always around here on that sauce, you're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up. And it just is what it is. Don't tell me about when Noah drunk. Was Noah a pastor? No, he was not. He was a preacher of righteousness. That's two totally different things. He was a core-left of the faith. Two totally different things. That man was not a head over an assembly. You can't be no drunk nigga and be no head over an assembly. You just a drunk nigga. You ain't no pastor. You a drunk nigga. That's what you is. I don't care who try to co-sign it. I don't care what you try to spin on it. And it just is what it is. If you around here putting your hands on people, you like to fight, that man ain't a pastor. If you're greedy for unjust gain, you're not a pastor. It's not hard to tell. But let's come over here to 1 Corinthians 9. I got to read it on the phone because that page ain't in my book. Now I want you to look at we're going to look at a contrast of what Paul say here in regards to apostles versus what he says over here about, that's right, Monte, don't get lost in the sauce, versus what he said about a pastor. This is 1 Corinthians 9:1. Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Yahushua HaMashiach our Lord? Are you not you my work in the Lord? If I be not an apostle unto others, yet doubtless I am to you, for the seal of my apostleship are you in the Lord. So what is he saying? Because I taught you the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach, you being sealed with the Ruach HaKadosh through the words of faith shows forth the sign and seal that I am an apostle. That's what he's saying. My answer to them that do examine me is this, because look at what they're doing. Paul is being examined by the assembly in Corinth. Is he what he says he is? Is he of the office that he says that he possesses? Notice that he is not offended with this. Notice that he wasn't concerned with this. They were examining this man as they should. My answer to them that do examine me is this. Have we not power to eat and drink? Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles and the brethren of the Lord and Cephas, or I only and Barnabas? Have we not power to forbear working? Listen, he letting you know that an apostle has the power to not work at all. And you know how you know this? It's because when the Lord sent them out and say, hey man, these people going, the laborer is worthy of his hire. This is why he's making this statement. That we can forbear working and focus strictly on preaching the word as an apostle. That's what he's telling the people. But look at the next thing he said. Who go at warfare at any time at his own charges? Who plant a vineyard and eat not the fruit thereof? Who feed a flock and eat not the milk of the flock? All these things that he's mentioning come straight from your law. All these things he meant. Come on over here to Leviticus, I think, with that vineyard. I just read that the other day. Let me find out what I want. Yeah, we did. We actually read each other as a whole. Deuteronomy 20:6. And what man is he that have planted a vineyard and have not eaten of it? Let him also go and return into his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man eat of it. Ain't that what he just said right over here in 1 Corinthians 9? What man has planted a vineyard and not eaten of it? He telling you exactly what your law say. He say, who feed a flock and eat not the milk of it? Who go to warfare at his own charges? Now, if you go look back as forth as when you look at the things, especially with Solomon, what person go to war and they pay for it? That's what he's telling you. Look at the next thing he say. Say I these things as a man, or say not the law the same also. For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle the mouth of the ox that tread out the corn. Do Alahym take care of the oxen? Take care for oxen? Or say he altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt that it is written, he that plows should plow in hope, and he that thresh in hope should be partaker of his hope. If we have sown unto you spiritual things, is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things? If others be partakers of this power over you, are not we rather? Nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Mashiach. Notice, he gave them an example. He said, if I've sown unto you spiritual things, you mean to tell me it's a big deal to reap carnal things in return? Now, he said, we have this power as an apostle. He said, but we haven't used it. You know what I'm talking about? This is what he's telling you. Because an apostle is what? He's not over an assembly. Them apostles, with the exception of Peter, because Peter was a pastor, so he was over a congregation. Them boys were moving around. Especially with Paul and Barnabas, they were moving around. You know what I'm talking about? Now, the main ones, them main 12, them boys were locked in Jerusalem. Them boys wasn't moving around like that. Now, it doesn't mention about James being a pastor, but it tell you, we just read it what Peter said, I am an elder. He was a pastor. You can read in the Gospels, Peter had a wife. It mentions his wife. You know what I'm talking about? Nevertheless, 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I'll read 12 again. If other beasts partake of this power over you, and you are not we rather, nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Mashiach. Do you not know that they which minister about Kadash things live of the things of the temple, and they which wait at the altar are partakers of the altar? Even so have the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. But I have used none of these things, neither have I written these things, that it should be done so unto me, for it were better for me to die, that any man should make my glorying void. But though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to esteem of, for necessity is laid upon me. Yea, woe unto me if I preach not the gospel. But if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will a dispensation is committed unto me, what is my reward then? That when I preach the gospel, I make the gospel of Mashiach without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel. See, Paul was very, very cognizant and aware. And it goes back to the statement that Moses said, which one of y'all I took anything out of your vineyard? I mean, any of your cattle. And Samuel said the same thing. We have power to do this, but we're not going to abuse this power. See, and I'm reading this because this is what probably most people have experienced. I don't even think most people have directly experienced it, because I don't think most people were actually very active members in anybody's church. But these are the things that people have heard of or go on and on about men who are abusing their authority in the gospel by fleecing the people and then ruling over them with rigor. But now let's look at the contrast in 1 Timothy chapter 5 of what he says here. And then I'll ask y'all to, look that word up and tell me what you find. 1 Timothy 5:17. Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. For the scripture says, you shall not muzzle the ox that tread out the corn. The laborer is worthy of his reward. Shalom, Brother Marvin. Now, why is Paul making a distinction to Timothy that was directly in contrast to what he just said about an apostle as it regards to an elder? When he says an elder that rules well and labor in word and doctrine, what is ruling well? Let's get right over it. When you look at rule, this is prosateme, that is to superintend, to preside over, to be a protector or a guardian, to give aid, to give attention, to care. When you're dealing with ruling well, this is somebody who presides over and cares in regards to the people, the very thing that you've seen Peter elucidate to in 1 Peter chapter 5. What does it mean to labor in word and doctrine? Labor, of course, that's obvious. That's to labor with wearisome effort, to toil, bodily labor, to grow weary, tired, exhausted with toils of burden and grief, or to work hard. By implication, to work hard. That's why they got wearied and fatigued in them, man. It's to work hard. What is the labor in word or work hard in the word? That is speech. And of course, the sayings of Alahym, the precepts given by Alahym, Old Testament prophecy given by the prophets, doctrine, teaching. And then they gave a long church fathers definition to say, preaching the testimony of Mashiach. And what is doctrine? Of course, that is teaching or instruction or the precepts. So this is an individual that they work hard in word and doctrine. They should get double honor. Now, I want y'all to look up double honor, and I want somebody to tell me what you see when you see double honor. And then why would you believe that there would be a contrast from the apostle to the elder? And then I'll explain it out of the law. But we finna get ready to get off here. I know I was a little bit late. Ball. You want to come over here, Ball? Come on, Ball. No. He's smiling like he did. Come on, Ball. Hey, Ball. Anybody find a definition for double honor? Share it with us if you would. Hey, Bob. I mean, of course, I could read it, but I want one of y'all to go on a venture and find it. Because I want you to understand what that contrast is and why he made a contrast. And then we'll relate it to the law and you'll see the difference. Say, what's up, Ball Mall? Dwayne Jamal, tell him what's happening. Say, what's up? Is this correct? They who oversee appropriately or worthy of the other arm, this is likely to imply both respect as well as financial support. But let's look and see what that definition is, because I know everybody can't really always tap in the chat, at least on YouTube anyway. You look at double honor. Double is twofold, double, diplose, double, twofold, more. Honor in this particular Greek word in this particular instance is time, valuing by which the price is fixed, the price of itself, the price paid or received for a person, thing that is bought or sold. Honor which belongs or is shown to one, the honor which one has by reason of rank, state of office of which he holds. Deference, reverence, esteem of the highest degree, honor, precious, price, sum. Now, it's both. It's the honor and the payment. But now I want you to understand this as it pertains to your law. Why do you see Paul making a distinction between an apostle and an elder, saying that the apostle has the power to take these things but doesn't do it, but then instructs Timothy that a pastor should get it? Where do you see that distinction at in your law? Because there is a distinction. You might not catch it because it's something that if you ain't really paying close attention to it, it might zoom right past you. And I can understand why it would, so I ain't mad at you. We kind of talked about it last week, and I kind of mentioned it once already this evening. Does anybody got an idea where you can see that in your law? Why the distinction that Paul makes in 1 Corinthians 9 when he speaks of himself, saying that the law said, he said the very same thing in Timothy about that the law says don't muzzle the ox that tread out the corn, and say that I have power to take these things, but I don't take them. But then he tells you that for the elder or for the pastor that they should get that. I'll share you why. You can look this up for yourself. In in Numbers 3 and Numbers 18, as it pertains to the house of Aaron or the priest. Hold on. He said with the high priest and you would be right, sir. But this is where the distinction come in at. The Aaron and the Levites, they got the tithes correct. Now Moses, what tribe was he from? But was he considered to be a priest? Did he labor in the priest's office? Was he considered to be a high priest? He wasn't a son of Aaron. So what position would he be in? We talked about it last week because Moses is an apostle in your law. And I just mentioned it and said, Moses said, I didn't take nothing from y'all. You know what I'm talking about? So you see Moses as your law example of what you see in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. You know what I'm talking about? That because Moses had power to get those things, but he didn't take them. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at 1 Timothy 5 and 17, what he telling you, Samuel also, now Samuel wasn't an apostle per se, but he operated in that same, because I did mention Samuel along with Moses this evening, but he also forbore because Samuel, guess what? He wasn't a Levite. Let me show y'all that. 1 Samuel chapter 1. Or was he? I might have misspoke. I can't remember. We ain't talked about that in a while. I think Will asked about that a long time ago. Elkanah was his daddy's name. I'll tell you this tribe right now. There's a lot of people had that name because he said he came from Mount Ephraim. And he's the son of Joram, the son of Elu, the son of Tofu, an Ephrathite. So, yeah, Samuel was from the tribe of Ephraim. He was not a Levite. You know what I'm talking about? He was not a Levite. So, therefore, Samuel could not take that type of payment. You know what I'm talking about? Because he was not a Levite. Uh-oh. You all right, son? He couldn't take that type of payment because it wasn't given for him to take. Well, I caught his lip with the nail. Come on, go on with your mama because you're getting drunk up. So he couldn't take that. And Samuel made the same proclamation that Moses said. I ain't took no sheep out of your fold. I ain't took none of your oxen. I ain't did none of that. Remember what his sons, they say his sons were doing. They were judging for what? Reward. They was like what we read in Jeremiah. The priest and the prophet, you know what I'm talking about? They all doing it for dirty gain. But as far as the contrast of the structure, a pastor or elder because at the end of the day, an apostle doesn't necessarily have care for a house, if you would. Not in the strictest sense. We just read it last week. What were the apostles going about doing? Ordaining what? Elders in every city. For them to have care over the house of God. That's what he said in Acts chapter 20. We read that last week also. I just want you to understand the contrast. I want you to go search that out in your law and see. Because Moses literally said, I ain't took nothing from y'all. Let me find them verses. Yeah, that's Dookie Jack. Let me find both of them for him and I can't recall them off the top of my head. I think it's been a long time since I read it. I think Moses said this in his time to bid farewell. What you talking about, Joanne? Stop it, Joanne. I would like for you not to do that. Thank you. Nah, I can't. And we ain't got all night for me to find that hole. Mm-hmm. What you talking about? I don't need you to do that. I don't need you to do that. I don't need you to do that. Thank you. Joanne, what I just said. I don't want to hear that. Sit your butt down. Sit your butt down. No, I can't recall what's that. Nevertheless. That doesn't gonna bother me, man. Mm-hmm. You ready to go to bed? Yeah. Come on, number 16 and 15. I appreciate that, because that junk don't bother me. Let's look at number chapter 16. I'm back this up to about verse 12, though. Oh, yeah, that's when he was going off when they came at him with Korah. Listen what he say. Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eli, which said, we will not come up. A small thing that you brought us up out of a land that flowed with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, except you make yourself altogether a prince over us. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land that flowed with milk and honey, or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. And Moses was very wroth and said unto Yahuwah, respect not you their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them. And Moses said unto Korah, be you and all your company before Yahuwah, you and they and Aaron tomorrow, and take every man a censer and put incense in them, bring you before Yahuwah every man a censer 250 cents. That man said, I ain't took nothing from y'all. So you know what that means? Moses was giving them the word straight from Yahuwah, free of charge. But guess what? In that number 16, in Numbers 18, he finna tell you to tithe to them Levites and them sons of Aaron, though, ain't it? And Numbers 3, he told them it was theirs also. I'm just showing you the distinction, because you got to understand why you see these things in here. Because do you understand that what he said in 1 Corinthians 9 is drastically different from what he said in 1 Timothy 5? It's drastically different. So you need to understand, from the law is concerned, why did he say that? Where is that coming from? So that when you see it in actual application in the law, actual application with godly men, now you can see, okay, this is why he said that. I can rock with it like this here, and it's easy for you to understand. But when we don't do that, that's when people go to making stuff up and saying things out their mouth that they ought not say. Stop it. I said stop. Sit still and stop touching stuff. I think Samuel says this right before he was about to die. When he was about to die, that's when he told these people, hey, I ain't took nothing from y'all. Bye-bye, Joanne. Nevertheless, because we got to get off here. That's why my memory telling me right before Samuel died, he said the same thing. You know what I'm talking about? Because Samuel operated in a different capacity. Samuel was dedicated to Yahuwah all the days of his life, but he was not a priest, though he dwelt in the house of Yahuwah with Eli before Eli died. But he wasn't a priest. But he was a leader and guide of other people. And that's why I say, I ain't took nothing from y'all. I ain't took nothing out of your hand. I ain't got no unjust gain from y'all. So we need to see that before we leave here. That junk don't bother my mind. Come on here to 1 Samuel 12. I don't know how I'm going to find that hope. 1 Samuel 12 and 1. That's what it was. It was when they asked for a king. 1 Samuel 12 and 1. This is what we want. And Samuel said unto all Yasharal, behold, I've hearkened unto your voice and all that you said unto me, and I've made a king over you. And now behold, the king walked before you, and I'm old and gray-headed. Behold, my son's with you, and I've walked before you from my childhood unto this day. Behold, here I witness against me before Yahuwah and before his anointed. Who ox have I taken? Or whose ass have I taken? Or whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Of whose hand have I received bribe to blind my eyes therewith? And I will restore it to you. And they said, you have not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither have you taken aught of any man's hands. He said unto them, Yahuwah witness against you, and his anointed witness this not found aught in my hand. And they answered, is witness. Again, this is what Paul is referring to in 1 Corinthians 9. But what you see in 1 Timothy 5 and 17 is your numbers 3 and numbers 18. You know what I'm talking about? So you have to understand and know the difference. And I really am harping on that point to mention what we talked about from the beginning, that he told you the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. And what you see in these epistle letters, you'll find in the law and the prophets. So you have to know that and understand that, and you can see that the function that you see in how these assemblies are set, which is my whole point in doing all this here, what you read, how these men are regulating these assemblies and these epistle letters, it comes straight from the law. It comes straight from the law. Everything they're doing comes straight from the law. They're not doing nothing different than what you read in your law. So when you see that, then you can understand the operation. The execution is the same. The offices might be a tad bit different, but the structure and the execution is the same. There is no change. You know what I'm saying? The only difference, and the biggest difference only, you know what I'm saying, is one is a ministry unto death, and the other is the ministry unto life. As we can read that in 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and 1. Let's take a look at it. Do we begin again to commend ourselves, or need we, as some, epistles of commendation to you, or of commendation from you? You are epistles written in our hearts, known and read of all men, manifestly declared to be the epistle of Mashiach, served by us, written not with ink, but with the ruach of the living Alahym, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. And such trust have we through Hamashiach to Alahym ward, not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think anything as of ourselves, but our sufficiency of Alahym, who also have made able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Ruach, for the letter killed, but the Ruach gives life. But if the ministration of death written and engraven in stones was glorious, just like the tree of knowledge of good and evil was glorious, so that the sons of Yasharal could not steadfastly behold the face of Moses for the esteem of his countenance, which was to be done away, how shall not the ministration of the Ruach be rather glorious? For if the ministration of condemnation esteem, much more do the ministration of righteousness exceed in esteem. Now, one of the biggest differences also, while it just hit my mind, why you see Paul giving a distinction in 1 Corinthians 9 and 1 Timothy 5 is this. Paul was an apostle, correct? But what's the difference that between Paul and pretty much every other servant of God that you can read in this book? What's the one thing that Paul didn't do that the majority of every other man who labored in Yahuwah's vineyard did? Can anybody tell me what that is? No. I'm talking about after he been converted. It's one thing that Paul never did that the majority of the other servants of Yahuwah did. Get married. Paul didn't have a wife. So Paul could never be an elder. So the things that pertain to an elder, those rules would never apply to him. Because what did he say that a pastor or an elder got to be? He has to have a wife. An apostle doesn't have to have a wife. I'm going to show you the difference here, at least in regards to what you see with Paul. With Paul being an apostle going from spot to spot, it's almost what you see with Elisha, how he was moving around, and what you see with Yahushua and his disciples when they was moving around. Wherever they was at, dropping word, those people took care of those men, even though those men worked, because we know what was Paul's occupation. No, I'm talking about his literal earthly occupation. He was a tent maker. You know, and Peter had a job also. You know what I'm saying? Like Paul literally had a job. He went to work. So when he turned around, amen, when he went around and he tell a man, hey, if a man don't work, he don't eat, he could be justified in saying that because he had a job. But then we just read that he said, I got power to not work. See, that is the humility of a servant of God, knowing that I got the power that I don't even have to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because that man was a tent maker by trade. Of course, Peter going to have a job. He had a wife. Now, I know you got some men who are part of organizations, these that I've heard anyway, that they get paid a salary. I don't knock no preacher who get paid a salary. If the body of believers believe that this man is laboring in word and doctrine, they want to give him a salary. That's between him and that congregation in Yahuwah. You know what I'm saying? That ain't none of our place to speak on. It's not your place to speak if you believe that man deserves a salary or not. If you're not a part of that organization, what does that matter to you? To be 100% honest with you, what does that matter to you? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't walk around thinking about what no preacher get paid. It's none of my business. If he costing you paying him, I'll be like, shoot, sucks for you, sour deal. But if you believe this man is worthy of that and the people gonna pay him that, who am I? I ain't got nothing to do with that, cuz. And you shouldn't care about it either, because that ain't got nothing to do with you. Now, we'll tell you this here, like I told you before. Niggas giving a nigga their whole paycheck? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, that's not just before God. It ain't no way to spend that. I can't justify that in no shape, form, or fashion. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm be honest with you, if any one of y'all ever did that, I would be highly offended. You know what I'm talking about? If I was knowingly, like you walked up to me and handed me your paycheck and say, take my whole check, I'm going to give that back to you. And then I might kick you square in your behind, because what's wrong with you, cuz? Don't disrespect yourself like that. You shouldn't have no man on earth at that level of esteem that you will forsake your hard-earned reward for your labor just because you feel like, well, you teaching me the word. No, man. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, that's why he told them not to bring anything with them when they went out. Absolutely, Omar. That's why he told them that. Because wherever you went at, those people would look out for you. You say Paul's profession is a symbol to his spiritual life. To an extent, I mean, he did both of them. You know what I'm saying? That's why he said if it's a small thing, if I've sown unto you spiritual things, to reap carnal things. He was just showing them the point of, I would be justified as an apostle to take all these things from you. Because Moses would have been justified and Samuel would have been justified, but they didn't do it based off of the occupation that they had at that particular time. You know what I'm saying? Because for all intents and purposes, before Saul became king, Samuel was over the whole house of Yasharal. You know what I'm saying? To be 100% honest with you. And we know Moses was also. And they didn't do that. But again, when you look at the sons of Aaron and the Levites, for their labor, because the labor that Samuel was doing was not the same as the labor that the Levites were doing. Their whole life was dedicated to service. That's why it says in labor or hard work. Their whole life was dedicated to that. That's why he gave them that as their reward, because they're working for that. You know what I'm talking about? Like you have to, that's why he said what he did. And when you look at that, and we read it in 1 Chronicle 23, you can go back and look at it. Them men working for that. They working for that. You know what I'm saying? And you have to have a level of, he wanted you to respect that vocation because he hired them to do that vocation for your benefit, which is what he said in Malachi. They turn many from iniquity and save souls alive. That's a serious deal. That's just not so. And the reason why I'm harping on it again is for you to have respect for the vocation, not necessarily respect for me, respect for the vocation. Respect for the vocation. If somebody is an apostle, a prophet, a pastor, an evangelist, a teacher of Yahuwah's word, and as he said, study yourself to show yourself approved, rightly dividing the word of truth, as a workman of Alahym, that means an individual who's able to rightly divide is you able to see this person work for God. So you should have respect for the men that God has hired to do labor in his vineyard. You say Acts what? 8, 1 through 3? Okay. Let's go over here to Acts chapter 8, verse 1. Come on, y'all. Let's roll over here. He said, and Saul was consenting unto his death, and at the time there was great persecution against the house, which was at Jerusalem. And they were all scattered abroad throughout the regions of Yehuda and Samaria, except the apostles. And a devout man carried Stephen and made great lamentation over him. As Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering every house and hailing men and women and committed to prison. Therefore, they were scattered abroad and went everywhere preaching the word. Now, this is dealing with Paul persecuting the body. I did mention that I was going to run this down. So praise Yahuwah. He ain't going to let us slide out of here without us looking at it. Come over here to 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 12. 1 Timothy 1 and 12. And I thank Mashiach Yahushua our Lord, who have enabled me, for that he counted me faithful, putting me into the service, who was before a blasphemer and a persecutor and injurious, but I obtained mercy because I did ignorantly. in unbelief. And the grace of our Lord was exceedingly abundant with faith and love, which is in Mashiach Yahushua. This a faithful saying, worthy of all exception, that Mashiach Yahushua came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy, that in me first Yahushua HaMashiach might show forth all long suffering, for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on him to life everlasting. Now unto the Malach eternal, immortal, invisible, the only wise Alahym, honor and esteem forever and ever. Amen. So, okay, boom. I mentioned this earlier, right? Paul said he did this stuff out of ignorance and unbelief. When you go read about the cities of refuge, what is the caveat that could allow a man to go to the city of refuge, y'all? What is the two things if a man killed a man that would allow him to be able to go to the city of refuge? Can anybody answer that for me, please? Can anybody answer me? What are the two things that can allow a man to go to the city of refuge? Anybody got an idea before I share it with you? An accidental death, and that is a true story. And it's also another, that's one of them. Can anybody tell me the other one? An accidental death, or the thing that's put in there with the accidental death. Let's take a look at it. Come over here to Deuteronomy 18, if I'm not mistaken. Deuteronomy 19, actually. Deuteronomy 19, verse 1, if you would. When Yahuwah your Alahym have cut off the nations whose land Yahuwah your Alahym give you, and you succeed them, and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall separate 3 cities for you in the midst of your land, which Yahuwah your Alahym give you to possess. You shall prepare you a way and divide the coast of the land, which Yahuwah your Alahym give you to inherit, in 3 parts, that every slayer may flee thither. This the case of the slayer which flee thither, that he may live. Whoso kill his neighbor ignorantly, whom he hated not in times past. Say the kin of the dead seeks vengeance. Yep. Say so. 1-3 men. He went around different houses. Not only was he telling what he believed that they were doing, Monte, and preaching the Mashiach, is he believed that they were blaspheming. Which is the charge that the Pharisees labeled on Mashiach. So he would persecute them. So you remember when in chapter 9, when he tell you, Saul, why persecute you me? And he say, who are you? And he say, I'm Yahushua whom you persecute. Is it hard for you to kick against the pricks? So he wasn't just going around going against a doctrine. This man was locking these people up. And some of them he was consenting to their death. Because if you read right here, right there in verse 1, he consented unto the death of, what the name is? It's escaping my mind, Stephen. He consented to that. He agreed to it. He believed that it should have been done. So when you look at that Greek word for consenting, pleased together with, to approve with others, to be pleased with the same time, to agree. He agreed that Stephen should have been stoned. When it stated that he made havoc, this is that he treated shamefully or with injure, to ravage, devastate, and ruin, to properly, to soil, to insult, to maltreat, to make havoc of. And he was locking these people up. So he went past doctrine, if you would. He wasn't battling doctrine. He was consenting to people's deaths and that they should be locked up for believing and teaching Mashiach at that particular instance. So that's why he said he did it ignorantly and out of unbelief, which is why the Lord said, why do you kick against the pricks? Because whatever you did to the least of these, you did it unto me. So that's why that's why I read that Deuteronomy 19, he said he didn't hate it in time, he did it ignorantly. So when you see Paul stating, okay, I did it ignorantly, he didn't have knowledge of what he was doing. Therefore, that's why he could go into the city of refuge, this refuge being Mashiach, and being spared from the sword. Because whosoever sheds man blood, by man must his blood be shed. and therefore he could be spared as long as he stayed in the city of refuge. And that's what Paul did to the day that he died. He stayed in the city of refuge, or he stayed dwelling in the Mashah. Therefore, the revenger of blood didn't touch it. You understand? So that's what I go along with, and I mentioned that earlier. So I'm praise you. I'm glad you referenced that, because that allows us to run that down. That's the brief version. We've dealt with it in the past. It's been a long time. But hallelujah for Yahushua in the word. I appreciate y'all time. Prayerfully, you understood all of those things. You know what I'm saying? Because a part of why us doing this also is also to hammer home, yes, sir. Also to hammer home the point of seeing the things that mainly Paul anyway, because he got the most letters in him, but that are written in these letters, as far as congregations is concerned, is that you can see it in the law. So then when you see it in the law, you can understand it. So when you see Paul say, I have this power, but I don't take it, because Moses and Samuel had that power and they didn't do it. But then when he tell Timothy, who was a teacher, like, yeah, for sure, so amen, Will, man. But when you see him telling Timothy, hey, man, elder word, double honor, okay, you could go in Numbers and you could see that, hey, the Levites were worthy of that. They labored in word and doctrine. They deserve that for their work. You know what I'm talking about? And again, it's for you to respect the vocation. Not somebody who just say, oh, I'm a teacher, I'm a priest, all this type of stuff, but somebody who Yahushua has actually sent, or somebody that Yahushua has sent and they have ordained them and they have care over Yahuwah's house. And they don't rule over this man's house with rigor. You know what I'm talking about? And that they actually work hard in word and doctrine, because I meant to read this also. Come over to Hebrews 6. I ain't even finished Hebrews 5. Let me finish Hebrews 5 and 11, 12 anyway. For when the time that you ought to be teachers, you have neither one teach you again, which the first principles of the oracles of Alahym, and become as such as need milk and not of strong meat. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. If you want to talk about we Israelites in the law, you a baby. You a baby. You ain't got no skill with the word. And what he said that a bishop got to be skilled to teach. You unskilled, you a baby. That's why I say you can't become a pastor and you a novice. You a rookie to the game. You ain't nice enough. You got to sit down, baby. You ain't got enough. You know what I'm saying? Your skills ain't up, man. You got to hit the gym. You got to get some jumpers up, man. You got to work on your fundamentals and your footwork. You're not ready for that. You know what I'm talking about? He say, but strong meat belong to them that are full age, those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Well, you need a testimony of Mashiach to be able to do that. Because he said you have your senses exercised. But y'all willing, we could deal with that on the Sabbath. But this is what I really wanted y'all to see right here. I mentioned it the other day, but Hebrews 6 and 10. He say, for Alahym not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which you showed towards his name, and that you served to the saints and do serve. Now, I mentioned that earlier because we talked about this recently with that Corinthians about being a cheerful giver. That is a totally different thing. And because we dealing with that again, because we dealing with this, we have to deal with that again, because that is a totally different thing. Remember, we read in Romans 12, he that give or he that serve, let him wait on that, because that's a gift from God for you to be able to do that. And you know, Paul said in another place that that's an unspeakable gift, that if anybody give thanks to Alahym because of you and what you've done in regard to serving the saints and do serve, because he said that's a labor of love. You understand? But right here in Romans 12, where's the verse that I want, man? Right there in verse 8, or he that exhort on exhortation, or he that give with simplicity. That's a gift of the Spirit to be able to do that. That ain't got nothing to do with no tithes and offerings. That's something totally different. And you have to know this, to understand this, to make the distinction, because that's in your law also. Of making a distinction of what is an offering or a gift to give to God, and what is it to give to your neighbor who's fallen in decay and wax poor amongst you. That ain't got nothing to do with no offerings, man. Matter of fact, let me read this Matthew 6 so y'all know what alms is earlier, because I mentioned that also. Because people like to use alms out of context. Matthew 6 and 1. Take heed that you do not your alms before men to be seen of them. Otherwise, you have no reward of your Abba, which is in Shamahim. Therefore, when you do alms, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have esteem of men. Truly I say unto you, they have their reward. But when you do your alms, let not your left hand know what your right hand do, that your alms may be in secret, and your Abba which see in secret himself shall reward you openly. What is an alms? What is an alms? Alms is ele musane. That's mercy, pity, giving alms and charity, donation to the poor, alms, exercise as to the poor, beneficence, concretely a benefaction, alms. Alms is strictly, it ain't got nothing. You don't give no preacher no alms. You don't get no preacher no alms. Preacher, you ain't supposed to be asking for no alms and you're a preacher of the Lord. To do the work of the Lord, I should say. Because that's what that young man did. A preacher of the Lord can be poor and ask for alms because he's poor. Just because somebody preached don't mean they got money. You know what I'm talking about? And just because somebody got money don't mean that he got it by unjust gains if he a preacher. You know what I'm talking about? Because you're supposed to examine the deeds. But yeah, man, you can't be asking for alms talking about so you could do the work of Yahuwah. That let me know that's an unlearned person. You know what I'm talking about? See, I'm trying to put you up on the game so that when you see certain things, you can be able to tell, like, okay, I know he don't know no word like that. Now, why are you teaching? No, I ain't gonna do all that. I didn't know he don't know no word like that. Because if you ain't gonna pull somebody to the side to teach them, to show them the way of Alahym in a more perfect fashion, like Aquila them did, man, then what are you doing that for? And if you don't have that ability to pull somebody to the side and show them the word of God, because see, this is the thing, it ain't about belittling them and telling them how dumb they is and taking off on them. If you're going to say something to them, you should be saying something to them to show it to them in a more perfect fashion in all manner of humility. And if you're not going to do that, then it's just better for you not to say nothing. Because what you saying something for? You know what I'm talking about? That doesn't make any sense. And just because you don't say nothing don't mean you don't care about them, because sometimes it's not for you to say something. You know what I'm talking about? It's not for you to be like, let me show him, let me correct him. What you mean correct him? Correct him for what? You know what I'm talking about? That's not your place. Every time to correct somebody, man, that ain't your place. I don't feel the need to correct. Like it's a dude I know, man, he hears somebody say something on Clubhouse, he feels it's his need to correct everything they say. I don't feel the need to correct everything that I hear. You know that'll drive you crazy. I don't feel the need to do that. Unless he moved me to do it, I don't feel the need to check you, man. Unless it's just egregious. See, we had a conversation the other day, it was egregious. Because they were trying to say Dan ain't no tribe no more, based off the 144. I say, well, taking your logic, let me ask you this. I say Dan has a gate, but Dan ain't mentioned on the 144,000. I say Manasseh is mentioned among the 144,000, but he doesn't have a gate. How do you reconcile that? See, I didn't come in and say, oh, you stupid, and cut him up. I just asked him, how do you reconcile that? From your point of view of the text, how do you reconcile this dilemma? Because if you say this tribe is gone because of this instance, this same tribe has the same situation going on, but in reverse. How do you reconcile that? Niggas say, oh, that doesn't matter. That's in the future. The name of the city is Yahuwah is there. So if Dan has a gate in the city where Yahuwah himself is at, how could you even dare say that that tribe doesn't exist? That's retarded. And you basing that off 144,000. That's just the chief men of the people. Nigga, it's 13 tribes, boy. What's wrong with you? Have you forgotten that your law say that he brought in Ephraim and Manasseh to be under the same covenant as him? I mean, there's two extra bodies. Well, we're going to say two because Joseph and Ephraim is one and the same. That's an extra tribe. So it's not going to be 156,000. Because these niggas not wise enough to know that Ephraim and Manasseh are the sons of Joseph and they are one, just like the father and the son are one. There we go again. My God, today. So they would all go in together because they all agree in one. You understand? Because guess what? Joseph would be considered to be Alahym, and Ephraim would be considered to be the son, and Manasseh would be considered to be the Ruach, and these three all agree in one. Or the Father, the Son, and the Ruach HaKodesh. It's all the same. When you got understanding, it's all the same. It's all the same word, showing you the same thing. There's no exclusion. That's just unlearned men. And you have to know that. Then he tried to say, well, Dan got put out because of sinning. I say, well, what sins did they commit to get him put out when Benjamin was out here chasing booty hole? And do you know that a lot of those men had no idea that that was men from the tribe of Benjamin knocking at the father of the concubine of the priest from Bethlehem, Yehuda? That those were Benjamites that did that? They didn't even know that. And I'm like, if Benjamin didn't be cut off for trying to have sex with a man, then what could Dan have done that could have been worse than that? All Israel worship idols. So why didn't that get Judah cut off? And what are we talking about? This is insane. But nobody cares. I tell you right now, nobody don't care that these people don't know what they be talking about. Don't nobody care. Because as long as you know they talking about we Israelites and they making you feel good about yourself, talking about we gonna take the kingdom and we gonna rule and we gonna have this here. You don't care that this nigga don't know, have no earthly idea what in the world he talking about. He said they were trying to say, tried to come back around talking about, oh, I thought you were talking about the patriarch Benjamin. Stop it. It just goes to show that people read the word for doctrine and debate. They don't read the word to gain understanding, so that that the things written aforetime were written for our learning, or as he wrote in Corinthians, that we should learn not to lust after evil things. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people don't really know the word like that. But when you don't know the word like that, you can't really tell that. You don't know the word like that. It's a dangerous place to be. But I bless y'all at the house of Alahym in the name of Yahushua. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. If you're willing, we'll be back at it on Shabbat. Make it do it again. And y'all willing till that time.